Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Mike.
I just had a friend send me a link to a story that says I'm charged with 2 counts of child neglect. Is that correct?
Yes.
Sir, I honestly don't know what to do or what to say.
You could either wait for them to pick you up. They'll end up taking you to a local Indianapolis, or you could just go and turn yourself in Lafayette. There's some amount of accountability here, okay?
My name's Bob Cooper. I'm a former Lafayette police detective. Well, I handled everything from juvenile cases to homicides. When I was on the Lafayette Police Department, I think I had a reputation for being a very good investigator. You know, I could say I care about justice. That's a cliche. What I enjoyed most about being a police detective is the puzzles. I think one of the reasons that I'm so intrigued by the Barnett case is this is one of the most difficult ones I've had. It's like a Rubik's Cube. It just continues to change. Just when you think you have it solved, you find out you don't. I think the Barnetts, when they adopted Natalia, they bought a pig in a poke. They didn't know what they were getting. It was more than they thought that they bargained for. They bought a pig in the poke, and they got rid of her. And they put her in an apartment in Westfield, Indiana. Michael and Christine, they would almost be a household word in the social services area in Westfield, Indiana. Because Natalia created more problems than they were expecting. Obviously, they were trying to get her out of that environment to an environment where she was not known. And so they finally moved her to Lafayette, Indiana. Let's get her out of our life. And they did. They moved her an hour away to another county. There are more nice areas in Lafayette than there are rundown neighborhoods. Where Natalia was placed in that apartment by herself, there's crime in the area. I think their goal was out of sight, out of mind. This thing will go away. But that didn't happen because Lafayette was the wrong town for them to bring her to. I don't like bull. That's just me.
2013. The Perimeter Institute in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, wants Jacob, who's 14, to go there to get his master's degree. So we're moving to Canada.
We'll get those 6 combinations.
Natalia, she had an apartment for a year on her own in Westfield, Indiana.
Natalia's current lease is up. Another apartment needs to be found.
Christine and her go out and they find her an apartment in Lafayette, Indiana. This is the best place possible.
I would happily, casually stroll around that neighborhood. It is a nice part of town.
This apartment is within 2 blocks of an adult GED center that she signed up for to get her GED. It's within 2 blocks of the bus route, a suicide prevention center, the Salvation Army, a local grocery store that takes her food stamp card. You couldn't draw a map and centralize her better to a place that could care for any one of her possible needs.
The Barnetts thought that this was it. Problems are solved. They've washed their hands of this. Well, then of course their nightmare hits. The nightmare being charged with child neglect. It actually became the beginning of the end.
Grandma! You are not
No.
cheese.
You can't have that.
My name is Kenna. I was Natalia's neighbor. I have 9 cats, 2 dogs, 5 kids. Yeah, I have all my kids tattooed on me. If we adopt him, he'll be the 6th. I ran out of limbs, so I had to put one on another limb. Sorry, my house is so noisy. I can't check my dogs either. I need to check them. Because if they get loose, I've lived in Lafayette my whole life, born and raised here. The first time I saw Natalia was when Michael and Christine were moving Natalia into her apartment, and I just assumed that they were the ones moving into the apartment, but I never did see them again. The first time I met Natalia, she had come over to my house, knocked on the door. I was a little startled because I thought it was a little kid at my door, and then she explains to me that she's 22, or she thought she was 22. And I thought that was a little bit strange that she thought she was 22. And Natalia said that she didn't have any food over there in her home, in her apartment, and that she needed to call her parents so that she could get some money. When I handed her the telephone, she didn't know what to do with it. It was like, like one of those reactions. Then I said, well, do you have the phone number? No, I don't know it. So then the phone just got put aside, and it was, I'm really hungry. Could I have a sandwich? I also thought it was strange that the Barnetts would put her in a second floor apartment. To have to climb 16 steps plus the 3 or 4 on the outside, that's a lot of steps for someone that small. She was struggling to climb those steps. I was kind of stunned. And even if she was 22, she has those disabilities. She has special needs. Why would you get her an apartment that she can't navigate? Going down the steps is extremely dangerous. So she could have fell at any point. And nobody would have known she'd fell. Nobody would have known it. I mean, there's so many things that could have happened. I mean, what if she had burnt the house down? Not only would she have died, you got all those people below her in those apartments that could have died. I felt like she was kind of left to the wolves. We lived a block away from a village pantry, and there was vagrants outside of that place, and there was a homeless shelter. There's a lot of crime happening, and at any point, someone could have gotten her to go home with them, or could have just straight up picked her up and snatched her. Definitely not an area of town that I would let my kids walk around unattended. It's gotten to the point where not only do I carry a weapon in my home on my body, I carry a weapon outside of my home on my body at all times. It's a necessity to be armed. I hope Natalia knows that if I had realized during that moment what was really going on, I would have took action. I would have done something to help her. I just hope she's having a good life. And I hope she gets the justice she deserves. She deserves for Christine and Michael to go to court, and they need to see their day. And she just deserves to have a circle around her to make her feel safe. I can't even imagine how scared she was. If she was 22, I'm sure she'd still be scared. I mean, look how small she was, how helpless she was. So regardless of her age, she was very scared and alone. And that situation should have never, ever happened. The truth is that if I saw the Barnetts, I probably wouldn't say really anything. I'd just start swinging.
So let's recap here. The Barnetts took a 3-foot-tall, disabled little person, put her in an apartment on the 2nd floor where she's got to scale stairs that are dangerous given her disability. It's in a high-crime neighborhood. She's in an apartment with no accommodations for her disability. couldn't reach the stove, couldn't reach the washing machine dial. First, they took her cell phone. There's no landline in the apartment. There's absolutely no way for her to call for help if she needs it. That gets them in trouble. And so they give her back her cell phone, but they wiped all her contact information off her cell phone. And at times, there was no electricity or food. So what are the Barnetts doing here? Are they trying to keep her silent? Are they trying to get rid of her for good?
I spoke to Natalia one time, and that was it. I never seen her with parents. You know, every time I seen her, she was, 90% of the time, she was by herself. Been in the neighborhood since '67. I've seen it go from bad to worse. And I've been in trouble before. You know, I messed up in life. I've been to prison. Just like I tell anybody, I got a sex offense. I messed up in life. I went and did my time, come back out, you know. So I watch everything, because that's what prison taught me. Right. To be very observant of people, your surroundings, because you don't want to get caught up in that moment again and have something else happen to you. So, you know, she's a little kid, you know, I kind of stay away from that.
About a month after she started going to the Lafayette Adult Reading Academy, I just didn't see her come home anymore. She just disappeared. If you're an underage child living by yourself in that kind of surrounding, you don't know what to look for or what to stay away from. Nobody there to protect her, nobody there to make sure that nobody hurts her. I mean, it just really disturbed me. Natalia could have knocked on any door, and it could have been the last door she knocked on.
One day, when we moved to Canada, we got a phone call from the adult GED center that she had been signed up for and she was going to for classes, asking us if we had heard from or seen Natalia. We don't know what to do. We start making phone calls. We start trying to figure things out. We can't figure anything out.
When Natalia went missing in Lafayette, suddenly Michael and Christine are worried about her? They weren't worried enough about her safety to put her in a first floor apartment in a safe neighborhood with a telephone? What are they really worried about? Maybe that she's talking to a social worker or even the police?
A couple days later, we get a phone call from the GED center. Don't worry about it. We've found her. She is with this lady, Cynthia Mann. Okay, well, that's concerning.
Because anytime Christine would hear about Natalia had spoken to a neighbor or had interacted with a stranger, Christine would find out who that was, and she would do what it takes to stop it. That's her. That's Christine. She needs to be in control.
So we try to call Cynthia. We have a conversation with her. She lets us know she's living with us. Everything's fine. She's moved in. She's moved in? You met her 3 days ago. Christine and I call Lafayette Police Department. We call Adult Protective Services. Adult Protective Services goes out and evaluates the situation, and they report back to us. They found out that she had a food stamp card that had $500 on it, and they spent all the money and all the foods at their house.
This. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. If you don't, give us a sad face.
Yeah.
So they just took all of Natalia's food money.
What's up?
What's up?
A week later, I get notified by mail that Natalia's Social Security payments, which was going to me, I was paying ourselves back for the rent, and I was paying her gas bill and her electric bill, that they're no longer going to me. Within 2 weeks of meeting her, Cynthia took Natalia to the Social Security office, and Natalia signed over her Social Security money to her. They're subletting the apartment against the lease's rules. The Manns were making money off of Natalia's apartment that we paid for in advance. She was evicted. There was nothing we could do.
Between 2014 and 2019, a number of law enforcement agencies actively investigated Natalia Barnett's case. It culminated in 2019 when Brandon Davenport enters the picture. Once Detective Davenport starts looking into how Natalia came to Tippecanoe County, things start falling apart for Michael and Christine Barnett.
Hello, this is Davenport.
Hi, this is Cynthia.
I'm a detective of the Indiana State Police, and I'm assuming that you may know why I'm trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
So, have you guys tried or looked into adopting Natalia?
We actually tried to do legal guardianship and the courts denied it.
She has lived with you for how long now?
She's been with us since 2014, so 5 years.
All right, so she moves in, you fall in love with her, you treat her like your own kid, and then she's living with you.
Oh, yeah. Her parents did a number on this house, and they were so angry at her. She had her electricity cut off, and I told her, I said, you don't stay there no more. You're just going to live at my house. So, you know, we got some chicken and some good food, and we went home, and I cooked real good for her. And by this time, Christine had already called her phone so many times. She was terribly scared of Christine. And I told her, I said, well, if it'll make you feel better, put the phone on speaker. So she put the phone on speaker. And Christine was just yelling at her, you should be at your house. You shouldn't be anywhere else. I go into protective mama bear mode. And I told Christine, I said, you shouldn't be talking to her like this. You brought this girl out here and you dropped her off where she didn't know a soul. And she just went rambling. That's my daughter and you have nothing to say. You need to take her to the psych ward because she hears voices and she's had sex before and she's poisoned me. And all this stuff that she's saying that Natalia has done. I felt like it was a dangerous tone, like if she would have been in front of Natalia, like she would hurt Natalia. She screamed and yelled at me, so I finally had to hang up on her.
What I want to do is, I'm not looking at you guys. I want to find these individuals. I'm willing to fill out the paperwork to get the search warrant subpoenas to find out exactly why they have done this. It's suspicious.
In 2014. After years and years and years of pain and abuse, I finally got the courage to leave Christine. Her and the boys stayed in Canada. I came back to Indiana.
And it was a very rough divorce. It was not amicable. We lost the most important thing a marriage can have, and that's trust.
Brandon, with Indiana State Police. Is there a quiet place we could actually talk? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's set up back if you want.
Yeah, can we do that?
Yeah, I'm highly confused at the moment.
I'll explain. Listen, I'm not arresting you today, okay? That's not...
Can we eliminate the word today?
We're not arresting.
There we go.
All right. I came in here because I have speculations.
I think that you're a good guy. I'm more concerned about Christine and who she is.
Yeah. Christine is a master manipulator. She will do whatever it takes so she gets everything.
Do you know why she picked Lafayette?
She said to me, Lafayette is a white trash town. No one's going to care. No one's going to notice. So I'm going to put her there. And because those people are... She is white trash, I believe was the exact phrase. Then Natalia's not going to con or manipulate anybody.
Okay.
Exact words.
Well, I think Christina took her over there and abandoned a child. I think in your heart, you know that it was wrong. Be honest with me.
Yes, sir. I have them.
How old do you think Natalia really is?
Right now, this second today?
Yeah.
If I had to put money on it, 2022.
Follow me here. That means that 6 years earlier, when she was living in Westfield, she was 16 by Michael's calculation. That means she's still a minor. He admitted it.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Mike.
I just had a friend send me a link to a story that says I'm charged with 2 counts of child neglect. Is that correct?
Yes.
What can I expect from here?
Mike, here's what you can expect. You obviously know that Natalia was not old enough. Natalia, I don't believe, is 30 years old.
I honestly don't know what to do or what to say.
Okay.
To be charged with something like this, it's embarrassing, it's appalling, it's disgusting, it's degrading.
Once the charges got filed, my attorney and I, we pull up to the Tippecanoe County Jail.
The next day to turn myself in.
First tonight, the man accused of leaving his adopted child alone in an apartment in Lafayette turned himself into authorities today.
The case being built by prosecutors, confident enough to file charges of neglect.
I get put into a holding cell by myself.
I was booked. I was fingerprinted.
And then it's time for my mugshot. It's gonna sound strange. I wasn't nervous. Not that camera. I'm not thinking about that camera. I'm thinking about the ones that are waiting for me outside.
Michael Barnett bonded out of Tippecanoe County Jail about an hour after turning himself in.
Christine, is there anything you want to say?
No comment.
Christine Barnett turns herself in to the authorities a day after Michael turned himself in.
Especially for the first time, to hear that jail cell close behind you, that has to be one of the most humiliating experiences any individual could go through. Prior to this, the Barnetts were on the cover of magazines and newspapers. And now, after being arrested and charged, being photographed for a whole different reason.
The next day, I have employees pulling that up on their computer. Is this you? I have employees sending the link to my HR department.
Saying, did you guys know this monster works for us?
Suddenly, I am the bad guy of the universe.
But my ex-wife, Christine, was the one in power. I had no control over any of this.
From that point on, it becomes Barnett versus Barnett. It is war. And Natalia is no longer Michael's target. It's Christine. He's not going to take the fall for this by himself.
I'm the dictionary definition of a guy that had it all and lost it all. The car itself is dead. Hasn't run for about a year. It's not gonna run anytime soon. Lately, my life has been all about the trial, which is coming up just in a couple of months.
If I felt like I was ever doing wrong, I would have hid it. Knowing what I know now, knowing and being able to see how I was manipulated, and being able to see how my sons have been manipulated after divorce, the question is, do I think Christine could have manipulated Natalia? That's an easy question. The answer is yes, Christine could have manipulated Natalia. There was so much mental engineering done on me that built up and I blew up, and things ended so negatively, so poorly. She and I are truly unable to even exchange an email. Her nickname is Evil, and she's earned every letter. She has twisted, convoluted, lied, publicly, privately, repeatedly, over and over and over again, so she can maintain power, money, control over everything and everyone. My middle son and my youngest son, I've not seen them in over 8 years. And they want nothing to do with seeing me. We all were abused in that household. And Christine was the purveyor of abuse. You're gonna get the truth. I will pre-warn you, you might not like the truth.
but you'll get the truth. Christine blamed everything on Natalia.
The dynamic between Natalia and the rest of the family seemed to shift relatively early on. My mom would get into arguments and try to figure out who Natalia really was. Their relationship was definitely hostile.
Okay, so you told me some things that were not true.
Things would spiral quickly and escalate quickly. Christine and Natalia were in imminent danger. My children were just one step below it. I promise you, within 5 years, someone's dead.
Natalia, look at me. Look at me. Natalia, how long have you been on this wall? 2 minutes. Okay, so it's hurting you that bad in 2 minutes? All right, well, you still need to be on your wall.
My mom firmly believed that Natalia is a hostile agent, that she definitely is not who she says she is and intends harm.
Every day, Christine and Natalia would have the third-degree spotlight, tell me everything about you. One time I come home from work, open the door, say hello. Natalia is standing in the breakfast nook, nose against the wall. What'd she do? This is what I was told. Natalia this morning is not cooperating with Christine. Very adversarial, very butting heads, and honestly, God bless her, Natalia's probably the first person to ever stand up to Christine.
You will write your sentences, but since you're being a big stinker pot and you're just fighting, you're going to need to have time on the wall.
10 a.m., she puts her nose in the wall. You will stay there until you get to this table and write down names of people you have been with. That girl stands there, nose in the wall, from 10 a.m. to noon. Christine makes everybody lunch, gets Natalia's food, puts it right next to her. You can eat this. When, boys and girls? When you sit your ass at the table and you write down the names of every person you've lived with and you tell me who you really are. When I got home, Christine says that, yeah, she's been standing still, nose on the wall, for 8 hours. And she ain't getting out of there until she writes down names. Michael, don't you say a word to her. Don't you help her. I have been dealing with this all day long. Don't you do anything except back up your wife. Do you understand me? Yeah. So, at this point in time, it's been 8 hours. Natalia soiled herself. Natalia, according to Christine, soiled herself hours ago. And per Christine, on purpose, just to spite me and make me upset. So I sit on the couch in the living room. Natalia's behind me in the kitchen. Christine's on the couch. And we're gonna enjoy our evening. We're gonna watch TV. We're enjoying our evening. You can join us. You can watch TV when you tell us who you are. 2 in the morning comes. She has now defecated on herself. She hasn't moved. Every day I would come home, and best case scenario is Christine is sitting on the couch, angry, and Natalia's in her room. That is the best case scenario for the next 2 years.
What was the worst case scenario?
I told the cops this anyway. I told the police this when they came to me 3 years ago to talk to me about Natalia. So if I'm open and honest and willing enough to tell police officers this, I can do this. There were multiple times, 3 that I bore witness to, and I'm certain far more than that. that Christine beat the holy hell out of her. So one day I come home from work, and this is maybe early 2011. I can feel the tension in the air. Walking into the house, I see my wife. I'll try to be as accurate as I can. Get one of the guys to point the camera at the floor. I need right here-ish to get you to understand. The beatings were similar to this. Ow.
How bad did you see Natalia getting it?
I'm stunned that Natalia's body did not break in 1,000 pieces. She beat the holy out of her. It is not open hand, it is fists, it's elbows. I'm afraid. I am afraid as it's going on. I am freaking out. I don't know what to do.
Everything you say to me sounds real. I do think that Christina was a master manipulator.
Detective Davenport was using a common interrogation tactic, where he leads the target of the investigation to believe that he's on his side, to gain his trust and elicit more information. Michael really has changed his tune, and after hearing about how Natalia was treated and the beatings, if she really was hiding knives under her bed, it makes me wonder if she was doing it in self-defense.
As the beatings happen, I stand there not knowing what the hell to do. The only thing I can think, turn a camera on, turn a recorder on, and I palm my phone and hide it, and I start recording. How could you betray my trust? How could you do that? Right in front of me right now, you erase everything on the phone. Reset phone, hit OK. Don't you ever do anything like that again. I never got rid of the phone. I specifically kept it my entire life, just in case someone was ever able to do a data recovery off of it and pull the video back.
This exchange between Michael and Christine is really an explosive revelation. Michael accuses Christine of beating Natalia, and she doesn't deny it. So that's sort of a tacit admission that she did.
You're giving me consent, right? You're giving me consent to look at the phone.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna have some other
anything retrievable on it.
I have some people that work in the FBI, and I call them the nerds. So maybe see what they can do with it. Yeah.
When the time came, Michael offered up Christine to the police on a silver platter.
This is something where, I can help and provide as much information about Christina as possible, and I don't know. I've watched too many TV shows, I suppose.
Mike, it's called consideration, but I can't make any promises and I can't make any deals with you because that's not my position. That would be the prosecutor's decision. Okay.
Before I let you go, and obviously this is something you might not be willing or able to answer. When you spoke with Natalia, did she state that I never harmed her and tried to keep Christine from beating her?
Well, Mike, did you ever harm her?
No.
Then if you never harmed her, then she shouldn't have ever said that, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, I'm not going to say either way. I'm just saying that if you told me the truth, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you told me the truth about Christina, right?
Yes, I did.
All right. Well, then I think we're on the same page. You could help make a difference in right or wrong here.
From my mom's perspective, Natalia infiltrated our family and wanted to harm us. And so my mom denied possibly doing anything wrong, and if anything, she was just operating under the advice of therapists. And I can assure you that no therapist would advise this particular action, which I'm not going to go into detail, but like if a therapist did, they would lose their license.
Breathe it in. It was truly the best regular moment we would always have together as a family. Sitting down, having popcorn. It brings a level of comfort. There's a level of, maybe it's happiness, maybe it's purity, maybe it's just remembrance of a good moment here and there. This was part of our lives. We were movie people. It was what we did 2-3 nights a week. Jake smells the popcorn, Jake arrives. I'm already tasty. You and me standing here eating popcorn together. I never thought I'd get this again. I'd never in a million years dreamed that this would ever happen again. 2019, I haven't seen you in 5.5 years. And I sent you a couple messages on Facebook just to let you know, hey, if you have any questions about Dad, why'd you leave? Just ask. Of the 3 boys, you're the one that responded. You invited me to come see you in New Orleans. I had no idea what to expect. No clue. And I walk up and the first thing you say to everybody was, "This is my dad." I hadn't heard you say the word dad in almost 6 years. It gave me hope. I didn't have hope for a very, very, very long time. I was 100% convinced I'd never see you again. I'm still convinced I'll never see your brothers again. Sorry.
It's clear that someone wronged someone else. It's easy to go around and categorizing people into clusters of good people and bad people. But good people do bad things. Bad people do good things. I just don't want blame to be falsely assigned. My mom and I are kind of going through it at the moment. Recently, I had a bunch of questions relating to childhood and just concerns. So I called her. I was just expecting her to maybe acknowledge some of the things I was saying. I wasn't necessarily looking for an apology or anything, but I didn't even get that.
Natalia, that is not okay. You're trying to pick on people.
I did ask her about some stuff relating to Natalia that I don't think I'm comfortable sharing with here. Partially, I'm protecting my mom by not being explicit here. I mean, my mom is definitely not 100% innocent, so I'm kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place where I don't want to hurt anyone. And I recognize that might not be possible.
Could exonerate a little girl and set the record straight. One of my favorite sayings from Martin Luther King Jr., justice delayed is justice denied.
Yeah, I need to sleep on some things.
It's the fear that if you tell us what it is that you know, that your mother is going to go to prison.
Yeah, I don't know if I wish to talk about this further. I'm done.
Because there are so many questions, could possibly the Barnetts just be making this up to cover their tails and to cover their tracks? There's something really deeply wrong here. It doesn't smell right. There's something wrong. Oh, it smells like somebody's hiding something someplace.
So I told them about my last interaction with my mom, but yeah, I guess the moral thing that I've been struggling with is if there's some like shred of hope that she can be redeemed, I don't think it's worth dragging her character down anymore.
I've done that. I'm done. You didn't hear my conversation with them yesterday. But I told the full and complete truth. That's a nice way of saying I put 2 rounds in a shotgun and I fired. It's okay. I feel like I deserve the right to tell my story. I did not tell them that. I didn't tell them about kicking the stairs.
Well, kicking down the stairs, we said we're not going to say, right?
Yeah.
My plan going in today was to not tell them that. And furthermore, I understand that there could be legal recourse to that. And then, I'm not really looking forward to like being subpoenaed. Like,
You can't be subpoenaed. You were a minor.
oh, okay.
A child in...
So my microphone on. I am such an idiot.
It was a night like any other in the quiet suburbs of Los Angeles, 1998, yet something sinister lurked just beyond the streetlights. The wind carried an uneasy chill, twisting around the empty sidewalks and parked cars, whispering secrets only the darkness could keep. People slept behind locked doors, unaware that somewhere, in a shadowed alley, a life had been shattered, a story left unfinished. The call came in just after midnight. A jogger had stumbled over something in the park. A hand, pale and motionless, fingers curled as if in silent plea. Officers arrived, flashlights cutting through the fog, revealing the body of a young woman, barely out of her teens, her clothes torn, eyes wide open, staring at nothing and everywhere at once. Her name was Emily Sanders, 18 years old, a high school senior with dreams too bright to be extinguished. She had been missing for 3 days. Last seen leaving a local diner where she worked, her laughter echoing like a bell in the minds of friends who would never hear it again. The scene was horrifying but precise. There was a cold meticulousness in the way her life had been stolen, a clarity that made investigators shiver. No weapon, no immediate suspect, only the chilling impression that someone had watched, waited, and struck with calculated cruelty. The community was paralyzed. Posters went up overnight. Have you seen Emily? Asking strangers to peer into lives they thought they knew, their eyes tracing the routes she might have taken, imagining her last moments, feeling the fear settle like dust on every familiar corner. Neighbors whispered in clipped tones, theories bouncing between despair and disbelief, wondering how innocence could be so violently interrupted. Detectives combed through the park, the nearby streets, the diner, each footprint and discarded wrapper a potential clue, yet the killer left nothing that made sense, nothing that spoke except in a language of dread. Witnesses came forward, their memories fragmented, confused by darkness and distance. One man remembered a van, white, parked too long at the corner, engine off, but license plates blurred in his mind. Another spoke of a shadow slipping behind a hedge, a fleeting figure moving against the rhythm of the night. Emily's friends recounted the last hours, text messages that seemed ordinary now, laughter in the break room, a promise to call her mother before heading home. All mundane, yet now every detail twisted into a knot of horror, a timeline scrutinized for hidden meaning. Days turned into weeks. The local media descended, cameras flashing, microphones probing, the community's fear magnifying with every report. The The case became a cold case almost immediately. Names filed into ledgers, photographs faded, hope dimmed. And yet, officers kept a relentless vigil, digging into files, revisiting statements, examining evidence with microscopes and magnifying glasses, fingers hovering over yellowed tape and fading fingerprints, seeking a pattern, a thread that could unravel the mystery. Time itself seemed to taunt them. Leads evaporated, suspects vanished, tips dried up, and Emily Sanders' name slipped into conversations only as a cautionary echo. Families in the neighborhood lit candles, leaving flowers at the park, the air thick with the scent of wax and mourning, while the unseen killer remained at large, blending into crowds, walking past ordinary lives with a secret no one could confront. It was the sort of case that gnawed at the edges of reason, a puzzle without a corner piece, leaving detectives with endless nights staring at maps and photographs, questioning their own instincts. One officer recalled the strangest clue, a single earring half buried in dirt, unlike anything Emily had worn, smooth, black, shaped like a crescent moon. It didn't match the jewelry in her purse, and no one could identify it. Who dropped it? Was it a gift, a message, or a calling card? It became the haunting emblem of the investigation, an enigma that refused to dissolve in time. Months rolled on, the city, moving around the frozen moment of horror. The diner where Emily had worked kept her place at the counter, untouched, as if the world itself had paused. People drove past the park cautiously, children held closer, the air carrying an invisible tension, an undercurrent of unspoken terror. Detectives revisited old cases, looking for connections, searching databases, cross-referencing every assault and disappearance within 50 miles. They interrogated the usual suspects. Men with histories of violence, strange behaviors, suspicious patterns. But each lead fizzled. Each confession turned out hollow or coerced, leaving only frustration and the raw ache of justice denied. Emily's parents aged in suspended agony, waking each morning to the same unanswered questions, the same empty rooms, the same silence that screamed louder than words. Friends created memorials online, sharing photographs and memories, hoping someone, anyone, would remember her face, her laugh, her presence, and maybe, through the collective memory, the killer would slip, make a mistake, and justice would arrive. Years became decades. Technology evolved. New tools emerged. DNA testing, digital databases, surveillance techniques that could track movement once impossible to trace. But still the case resisted resolution, stubborn, elusive, mocking those who sought truth. Every anniversary, police officers left a single rose at the scene, a ritual of remembrance and hope, even as cold files collected dust. The story of Emily Sanders became a cautionary tale in neighborhoods and schools, a cold case that refused to leave the minds it touched, haunting anniversaries, birthdays, every milestone that passed without resolution. And yet, despite the darkness, despite the despair, the human drive for answers never ceased. Files were reopened, old evidence re-examined, officers whispering to one another about patterns they had missed, hints they had overlooked, a nagging certainty that the killer's arrogance might someday betray them. Then, in the 25th year, a breakthrough emerged from the most unlikely of sources. A piece of DNA, long dormant, sitting in a laboratory database, waiting for the technology to catch up to the evidence. It was a single strand, a whisper from the past, carrying the weight of 25 years of questions and grief. Suddenly, the cold case ignited. Leads converged, timelines reassembled, the unknown became known, and the identity of the person who had shattered a young life emerged like a shadow, finally brought into the light. Arrests were made, confessions extracted, and the community gasped at the revelation, stunned that someone could walk free for decades, living ordinary life with an extraordinary secret. Justice, delayed but relentless, finally arrived, leaving a mixture of relief and renewed horror in its wake. People returned to the park, but nothing could erase the memory of that night. The image of Emily frozen in time. The single earring a reminder of mystery and evil. of questions answered, and yet the echoes of loss that lingered in every corner of the city. Even now, the story circulates in hushed tones among detectives, journalists, and residents, a tale of obsession, patience, and the inescapable shadow of violence. The name Emily Sanders is spoken with reverence and fear, a symbol of the past that refuses to be forgotten, a cold case cracked after 25 years, but a wound that never fully heals, a narrative of darkness pierced by the fragile light of truth, leaving a city to reconcile the horror of its past with the fragile hope of closure. The arrest sent shockwaves through the quiet streets of Los Angeles, a city accustomed to noise, yet unprepared for the revelation that a predator had walked among them for a quarter of a century. Neighbors who had waved at him in passing, friends who had shared barbecues and birthday parties, co-workers who exchanged mundane greetings. None could imagine the darkness that had hidden behind his ordinary face. The courtroom was packed, cameras clicking, microphones thrust forward, every eye fixed on a man who seemed unervingly calm, as if decades of concealment had hardened him against the weight of revelation. Detectives recounted the painstaking steps that led to his capture, replaying the same sequence over and over: the DNA match, the overlooked alibi, the forgotten witness statement, the re-examined CCTV footage that, 25 years later, finally aligned with undeniable evidence. Families of other victims watched, hope flickering and dimming in the same breath, realizing that justice could be slow, elusive, and terrifyingly imperfect. And yet, Emily Sanders' parents, now gray, lines etched deep from grief, eyes hollowed by years of unanswered questions, stood, their hands trembling, hearts heavy with the knowledge that the nightmare that had shadowed them since their daughter's disappearance was finally confronted. The park where she had been found had become an unofficial shrine. Flowers wilted and renewed countless times, photographs faded by sun and rain, candles melting into wax rivers on the cold concrete. Friends and strangers alike came forward to witness the court proceedings, whispering prayers and muttered curses, grappling with the absurdity that a life could be stolen so cleanly, so deliberately, and that a man could carry that secret for decades without detection. Inside the interrogation room, the killer's calm demeanor belied the chaos that had followed him silently, the endless nights of officers sifting through evidence, the painstaking reconstructions, the mounting pressure that had, in small increments, begun to erode his defenses. Every question from the detectives was met with measured pauses, eyes flicking subtly, fingers twitching ever so slightly, a language of guilt hidden in micro-expressions, a story told in the unconscious movements of a man who had thought himself invisible. As the court proceedings dragged on, the media spun narratives that blurred fact and speculation, painting him as a monster and a neighbor, a shadow and a familiar face, dissecting his motives, his habits, his psychology with the precision of scalpels and the sensationalism of tabloids. Yet even as evidence mounted and the verdict loomed, the city felt the lingering chill of Emily's absence, a reminder that closure is never truly complete. Streets remained haunted, shadows longer, nights colder, and every park bench and empty alley carried the ghostly echo of what had transpired on that fateful night. Detectives returned to their offices late at night, reviewing files, examining photographs of a smiling girl forever frozen in memory, tracing her steps in the diner, the park, the streets, wondering if there were moments missed, clues ignored, if the puzzle had been complete enough to prevent this horror. And the killer, now confined, carried the invisible weight of decades spent hiding in plain sight, of lives untouched and lives destroyed, of secrets that once gave him power now stripped away in the stark fluorescent light of justice. The trial revealed details that had been buried in silence. The methodical planning, the stalking, the small signals unnoticed by those around him, the seemingly insignificant actions that, in retrospect, formed a trail as clear as it was horrifying. Witnesses who had once been silent spoke, remembering fleeting moments, glances, feelings of unease, things that had seemed trivial at the time, but now took on chilling significance. The city reeled, a mixture of relief, outrage, and disbelief circulating through news cycles, water cooler conversations, and online forums. Cold case units saw their work vindicated, but also reminded of the fragility of memory, the imperfection of human attention, the cruel reality that evil often hides in plain sight until persistence and luck converge. And yet, amid the chaos, the victory was tempered by a sobering awareness. 25 years had passed. A lifetime of uncertainty, fear, and grief could never be fully erased. Emily's friends had grown. Some moved away. Others carried scars invisible to the world. Her parents had aged, their youth stolen alongside their daughter's innocence, the long wait for truth having marked every line of their faces. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered with cameras trained on a small cluster of vigil participants. People who had kept Emily's memory alive, holding signs, sharing stories, leaving flowers at the base of steps, their voices raising questions about society's ability to protect the most vulnerable. Conversations turned to broader patterns, to the number of cold cases still unresolved, to the silent accumulation of pain that communities bear when justice is delayed. Experts debated, psychologists dissected the mind of the killer, criminologists mapped the sequence of events, searching for lessons to prevent such horrors in the future, while ordinary citizens simply struggled to reconcile the familiar face of a neighbor with the monstrous acts revealed. Inside the courtroom, every testimony added layers of tension, the narrative winding through decades, intertwining memory, evidence, and human emotion into a tapestry of horror and resolution. The jury absorbed each detail, eyes widening at the methodical cruelty, at the premeditation, at the chilling normalcy with which a life had been stolen. And in the corridors outside, law enforcement officers shared quiet glances, understanding that the capture of one perpetrator could never fully compensate for the years of unanswered questions, for the nights spent walking streets in fear, for the subtle paranoia that had seeped into the community fabric. When the verdict was finally read, silence fell like a heavy curtain, punctuated only by the hushed sobs of Emily's family, the relieved sighs of her friends, the muted gasps of the public, and the quiet contemplation of those who had watched decades of investigation finally bear fruit. Gavel striking, papers shuffled, the killer's face impassive, yet the invisible weight of exposure settling over him. The world now aware of what he had done, no longer hidden in the shadows, no longer able to walk past the places that had witnessed his crime without the eyes of justice upon him. Outside, the sun set on a city that had learned, painfully, the cost of inattention, the fragility of life, the endurance of grief, and the relentless, slow march of truth. Memorials were renewed, plaques refreshed, flowers replaced, the names of victims whispered once more, and the park where Emily had fallen remained hallowed ground, not just for mourning, but for the stark reminder of human darkness and the long, winding road of redemption that justice demands. And yet, even as closure arrived in the form of incarceration, the collective memory of the city remained haunted, shadows lengthened in familiar places, and the eerie awareness lingered that evil can hide in plain sight, patiently waiting, and that the echoes of Emily Sanders' life and death would forever ripple through the streets and hearts of those who dared to remember. Even after the verdict, the city's heartbeat didn't return to normal. Streets, once familiar, now seemed to harbor hidden corners, shadows that hinted at the past, as if Emily Sanders' presence lingered, tracing the steps of anyone who dared walk alone after dark. Detectives stayed on edge, reviewing old cold cases, haunted by the possibility that the killer they caught might only be one of many. Patterns were analyzed, behaviors cross-referenced, every small detail from that long-ago night scrutinized with renewed intensity. The white van, the shadow behind the hedge, the single black crescent earring. Each fragment of memory now felt like a clue from a larger, more sinister puzzle that had yet to reveal itself completely. Emily's parents retreated into their home, trying to rebuild lives fractured by decades of waiting. But the absence of their daughter remained a jagged void, a silent scream echoing through every empty room. Memories, once a source of comfort, had turned into relentless reminders. Her laugh, her favorite blouse folded neatly in a drawer, the messages she never sent, promises unfulfilled. Friends kept vigil in different ways. Some returned to the park at twilight, placing candles and fresh flowers, whispering stories that could not change the past, but refused to let her memory fade. Others chronicled her life online, sharing photographs, texts, and recollections in forums dedicated to cold cases, hoping that visibility might prevent others from slipping through the cracks, that her story might serve as a warning, a beacon, or at least an enduring testament. Investigators pored over every angle, revisiting the diner, the streets, the neighborhoods, trying to reconstruct a narrative the world had almost forgotten. Forensic technology had changed, and they applied it to long-neglected evidence. Fingerprints previously inconclusive were re-examined. Fibers, once thought irrelevant, revealed their secrets under new microscopes. Digital databases cross-checked timelines and alibis with startling speed. Yet every new discovery only deepened the sense of horror. The killer had covered his tracks meticulously. He had chosen his victim carefully, blending observation with opportunity, and vanished into anonymity for a generation. When detectives interviewed witnesses who had long feared coming forward, small details emerged. Glimpses, almost imperceptible, that in hindsight screamed of intent and premeditation. A neighbor remembered a strange car parked for hours, someone watching the house, movements that now seemed sinister rather than trivial. A coworker remembered a phone call Emily received the day she disappeared, a voice low, hesitant, and threatening in its subtlety. The meaning invisible into the context of murder made it chillingly clear. Newspapers revived old articles, headlines blinking on websites, recounting California 1998 cold case cracked, killer caught after 25 years, bringing fresh shock to those who had thought the story resolved. The public fascination was palpable. Podcasts dissected every detail. Commentators replayed events with dramatic flair. Theorists speculated on the psychology behind the crime. Yet, beneath the spectacle, there was unease, the understanding that while one chapter had closed, the ripple effect of fear, grief, and suspicion would persist indefinitely. Law enforcement officers who had retired carried the memory of Emily into their personal lives. Some suffered sleepless nights, haunted by images of her face, wondering if there was more they could have done, more that could have been seen or interpreted differently. Younger officers, new to cold case investigations, studied the files obsessively, seeing in her story lessons that could save future victims. Psychological profiles were created, dissecting the mind of a killer who lived unnoticed for decades. Experts spoke of charm, patience, the ability to appear ordinary, and the meticulous control required to live with the weight of a secret murder. Yet none could explain fully how a man could compartmentalize, how he could dine with neighbors, work alongside colleagues, smile, laugh, and pretend normalcy while carrying a monstrous truth in his chest. Emily's school friends, now adults with families of their own, struggled with anniversaries. Each May morning, they remembered birthdays and prom nights that never happened. They recalled laughter that had been cut short, voices frozen mid-conversation, potential unfulfilled, and the cruel reminder that some events leave indelible marks that time cannot erase. The community rebuilt the park, painting fences, trimming hedges, but every corner retained the memory of a horror that was both shocking and intimate. Parents kept children close, whispering cautionary tales, instilling vigilance where once there had been trust, warning that predators could hide anywhere, behind smiles, in familiar faces, in ordinary routines. As forensic teams continued to scan the decades-old evidence, the Black Crescent earring remained a focal point. Its origin, purpose, and meaning were debated endlessly. Was it a trophy, a signature, a coincidence? No answers ever felt complete. It became a symbol of the case itself, a reminder that some mysteries linger even after the law intervenes, that truth and closure do not always align neatly, and that the human mind struggles to reconcile evil hidden in plain sight. For Emily's family, daily life became an act of endurance. They spoke of her often, named her in conversations, insisted that her story not be buried in statistics or forgotten among unsolved cases. Their grief was public and private, a duality of mourning for the lost and gratitude for the long-awaited resolution, a tension that left no room for simplicity or closure. Cold case investigators formed networks, exchanging tips, discussing breakthroughs, tracing long trails of evidence across counties, states, even nations. Emily Sanders' case became a reference point, a benchmark for the persistence, patience, and meticulous work required to finally catch a killer who would believe himself untouchable. And yet, the fear lingered, subtle but persistent, in the collective memory of Los Angeles. Citizens looked over their shoulders, walked faster at night, questioned strangers' intentions, felt unease in familiar streets. Every shadow, every unexpected sound carried the whisper of past horror. In classrooms, in police briefings, in neighborhood watch meetings, her story was recounted as cautionary narrative, a reminder that evil is patient, selective, and terrifyingly ordinary in appearance. The courthouse steps became a ritual place of reflection, reporters documenting the aftermath, citizens placing flowers and photographs, candles flickering in the wind, all converging on a single truth. Emily Sanders had been stolen from the world, but her memory, like an unbroken thread, remained, weaving a web of remembrance, grief, and relentless pursuit of justice. And while the killer faced his sentence, the psychological and emotional landscape of the city had shifted irrevocably, a scar that would never fade. Conversations continued about what could have been prevented, about the limits of human perception, about the courage required to revisit cold files and fractured memories, about the unrelenting passage of time that can bury evidence, but never forget the cost. As detectives closed the chapter of investigation, new questions arose. Had he acted alone? Were there accomplices? What other lives had brushed against him unnoticed? The uncertainty, the relentless scrutiny, the ripple of suspicion spread wider than the individual act of murder, leaving a community in constant vigilance. And amid it all, the quiet, persistent echo of Emily's life resonated. Friends recounted laughter. Teachers remembered intelligence and curiosity. Family remembered love and hope. The city learned that cold cases are more than files and photographs. They're living memories, reverberating in spaces, in people, in routines, in every night that carries the whisper of unresolved horror every morning. That dawns with a fragile sense of security. Every anniversary marked not only by loss, but by the fragile light of truth finally emerging from shadows. Even with the killer behind bars, the city felt the tremors of what had been hidden for 25 years, a quiet unease threading through neighborhoods, punctuating casual conversations, and lingering in the minds of anyone who had ever walked past Emily Sanders, unaware that danger had brushed so close. Detectives returned to the original crime scene, now overgrown but preserved by local authorities, tracing the contours of the park, measuring distances, imagining the steps she had taken, the points where she had paused, where the first blow must have landed, replaying the night over and over in their minds, as if the ground itself could whisper secrets long buried. Every detail, from the position of a discarded wrapper to the indentation in the soil where someone had knelt, was re-examined with laser focus. The crescent-shaped earring, black and polished, was still analyzed daily in forensic labs, its origins traced across continents, its material tested, its shape compared to fashion catalogs, costume shops, even obscure jewelry manufacturers, but remained an enigma, a silent witness to a crime that refused to fully reveal itself. Emily's friends, now adults, continued to struggle with the duality of relief and horror. They spoke cautiously in interviews, recounting memories that felt both distant and vividly present, aware that every word might be dissected, Every detail might be scrutinized, yet compelled by a sense of duty to preserve her story, to ensure that the nightmare did not fade into obscurity. Meanwhile, cold case units across California revisited old files with renewed vigor, inspired by the breakthrough that had solved the Sanders case. Patterns were reanalyzed, timelines reconstructed, new technologies applied to evidence that had long been considered inconclusive. Every lead, no matter how small, was scrutinized under microscopes, reviewed in digital reconstructions, cross-referenced with databases spanning decades. The painstaking work reminded everyone involved that time can obscure, but it cannot erase, and that persistence is the only weapon against the patient cunning of a hidden killer. Psychologists dissected the profile of the man behind the murder, tracing the trajectory of his life, the meticulous planning, the capacity for normalcy while harboring violent impulses. Experts debated in hushed tones about whether he had acted alone, whether he had exhibited warning signs, whether society had failed to recognize subtle indicators that might have prevented the tragedy. The answers were murky, obscured by time, by human error, by the imperfections inherent in every investigation. The Sanders family lived with the weight of public scrutiny and private grief intertwined. Their home remained a sanctuary and a mausoleum, filled with photographs and keepsakes that captured the vibrancy of a life stolen too soon. Every room echoed with absence, every quiet moment marked by the invisible presence of Emily, her laughter haunting the walls, her memory occupying spaces that no justice could fully restore. Community members who had been touched by the case formed informal support networks, sharing experiences, vigilantly monitoring for signs of danger, and collectively grappling with the realization that evil can exist hidden in plain sight for decades. School administrators spoke of the case as both tragedy and lesson, warning students and parents, emphasizing vigilance, empathy, and the necessity of paying attention to subtle signs and social interactions. Media coverage continued to frame the story as both horror and resolution, analyzing the twist that had gone unnoticed for 25 years, replaying the timeline of Emily's disappearance to discovery, the painstaking investigative steps, the sudden breakthroughs, and the ultimate capture of a man who had walked freely among ordinary citizens, concealed in plain view. Yet the narrative was more than news. It was a living, breathing cautionary tale, reminding the city that vigilance, persistence, and the relentless pursuit of truth are the only shields against calculated malice. Detectives revisited old interviews, reviewing statements that once seemed inconsequential, a neighbor's fleeting memory of a car idling too long, a coworker's recollection of a quiet phone call, a passerby's note about a figure lurking near the park. Each fragment was reevaluated, pieced together, a mosaic of human observation and error, a testament to the complexities of memory and perception. The killer's behavior, analyzed over decades, revealed chilling patterns of planning, patience, and the capacity to compartmentalize. Ordinary routines, small gestures, everyday interactions masked intent, demonstrating the terrifying reality that outward normalcy can conceal extraordinary danger. In homes across the city, conversations turned to reflection. Parents held children closer, revisited safety practices, and engaged in discussions about trust, awareness, and intuition. Emily Sanders' story was recounted at vigils, in classrooms, at local law enforcement training sessions, emphasizing the importance of vigilance, persistence, and the human cost of unresolved crimes. Memorials at the park grew in size and significance. Candles flickered in the twilight, photographs displayed in careful arrangements, flowers pressed into the soil, notes left behind with whispered prayers. Citizens who had never known Emily personally contributed, moved by the collective need to honor her memory, to assert that lives lost are not forgotten, and that the pursuit of justice is an enduring communal responsibility. The cold case had evolved into a symbol, a narrative of time, patience, and the tenacity of human memory against the erosion of evidence and the passage of years. Yet, for all the closure achieved, there remained an undercurrent of unease. Conversations in law enforcement corridors, in cafes, in family living rooms acknowledged a terrifying truth. The world is vast, human observation imperfect, and predators can exist unnoticed, hidden behind masks of normality, waiting for opportunity to strike. Every anniversary of Emily's death became a moment of reflection, of shared grief, of recommitment to vigilance. Friends lit candles, parents left flowers, investigators revisited timelines, and the city collectively acknowledged the invisible scars left by violence, the psychological and emotional residue that lingers long after the legal process concludes. Cold case units documented lessons learned, creating protocols, refining procedures, and applying technology to prevent similar tragedies. Each breakthrough, each resolution, became a template for future investigations, a reminder that the painstaking work of years can ultimately reveal truth. Emily's story, once defined by absence and silence, became a narrative of resilience, determination, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. Yet beneath the celebration of resolution lay a haunting awareness that lives had been irreversibly altered, that no verdict could fully restore what was taken, and that the echoes of trauma reverberated through time, through families, through communities, shaping behavior, memory, and perception. Detectives and journalists alike acknowledged that while one chapter had concluded, the broader implications of the case continued to unfold. Conversations about human behavior, societal responsibility, the limits of perception, and the ethics of law enforcement proliferated. Communities strengthened protocols, neighbors watched more closely, and the collective vigilance became a living tribute to Emily Sanders, a testament to the enduring impact of one life interrupted and the extraordinary effort required to bring closure, however partial, to a cold case that had spanned a generation. And still, the shadow of that night lingered over the park, over the streets, over the minds of all who remembered, reminding the city that while the killer had been caught, the memory of the crime and the haunting presence of loss would persist indefinitely, a sobering testament to the fragility of safety and the enduring power of truth finally revealed. Even as the city attempted to move forward, an invisible tension lingered, threads of unease weaving through every familiar street, every corner where Emily Sanders' laughter once echoed. Detectives continued to pore over records, knowing that the capture of a killer does not erase the lingering questions, the what-ifs, the details that might have been missed. Every photograph was re-examined, every witness statement reread, every fragment of evidence measured against new technology and fresh insight. The crescent-shaped earring, once just an oddity, was now a symbol of the case, analyzed repeatedly, cataloged meticulously, yet stubbornly refusing to reveal its origin. Emily's friends maintained their own rituals, small acts of remembrance that kept her presence alive in a world that often tries to forget the painful. They revisited the park at dusk, leaving candles and flowers, whispering fragments of memory, recounting shared laughter, whispered secrets, mundane conversations that now carried unbearable weight. The courthouse, where justice had finally arrived, remained a place of solemn reflection. Residents would pause outside, recalling the moment the verdict was read, the collective gasp that rippled through the community, the heavy silence that followed, and the knowledge that a monster had walked freely among them for decades. Law enforcement officers continued to study his behaviors, interviews, and hidden routines, a chilling reminder that some individuals possess the terrifying capacity to conceal darkness behind the mask of normalcy. Every glance, every casual smile, every unremarkable gesture now felt laden with potential significance, a haunting lesson etched into the memory of those who had followed the case so closely. Families of other missing and murdered individuals found both solace and renewed pain in Emily Sanders' resolution. The success of the investigation gave hope, a demonstration that perseverance and advances in technology could eventually deliver justice. Yet the lingering grief of those still waiting underscored the cruel reality of delayed resolution. Community workshops and seminars sprang up, utilizing the Sanders case as a reference point for public safety, awareness, and forensic methodology. Teachers, parents, and law enforcement collaborated, emphasizing vigilance, observation, and the subtle indicators that often precede criminal acts. The narrative of the case became multi-layered, part memorial, part cautionary tale, part procedural study, illustrating both human resilience and the fragility of ordinary life in the shadow of hidden danger. In private, Emily's parents navigated a fragile balance between relief and despair. While the arrest offered a sense of closure, the decades of uncertainty had left indelible marks, reshaping their daily routines, their interactions, and their perception of safety. Every quiet room, every untouched photograph, every echo of Emily's voice became a mixture of memory and reminder, a constant negotiation between remembrance and the longing for what might have been. Cold case investigators maintained active vigilance. The Sanders case became emblematic, studied in law enforcement training, dissected in criminal psychology courses, and cited in academic publications examining the persistence required to solve crimes long buried by time. Every new technological breakthrough, every forensic innovation, was tested against the backdrop of the 25-year investigation, demonstrating the evolving interplay between human determination and scientific progress. The city itself carried a scar, subtle but enduring, reflected in the cautious glances of pedestrians, the increased attention in neighborhood patrols, and the persistent undercurrent of wariness in places that had once seemed safe. The park, once a site of terror, had become a symbol of collective memory and resilience. Flowers, candles, and photographs were placed at precise locations, a ritualized acknowledgement of the loss endured and the victory achieved. Citizens, many of whom had not personally known Emily, participated in these acts, recognizing the broader implications of the case, the vulnerability of the innocent, the patience of evil, and the enduring need for vigilance and justice. Media coverage continued, chronicling not only the crime and arrest, but also the long-term impact on the community, the evolution of investigative techniques, and the human stories interwoven with the procedural narrative. Podcasts, documentaries, and news specials dissected the case in meticulous detail, emphasizing the tension between patience and urgency, chance and meticulous planning, memory and forensic evidence. Each recounting reinforced a chilling truth. Even ordinary lives are vulnerable, and the consequences of inattention or oversight can resonate for decades. Yet amid the public fascination, the human cost remained intimate and profound. Emily's friends navigated adulthood with a memory of her ever-present, shaping relationships, career choices, and life decisions. Each anniversary, birthday, and significant milestone became an echoing reminder of absence and resilience, of the life that was stolen and the enduring impact of unresolved trauma now confronted. Investigators remained vigilant, aware that while one perpetrator had been caught, patterns suggested potential oversight, accomplices, or other cases influenced by similar methods. Networks of law enforcement agencies collaborated across jurisdictions, re-examining cold files, comparing methods, reviewing timelines, ensuring that nothing was left unconsidered. The crescent earring continued to provoke curiosity and speculation. Its enigmatic presence, unexplained and symbolic, became a touchstone for understanding the meticulousness of the crime, the patience of the killer, and the elusive nature of evidence that had evaded detection for a quarter century. Citizens, journalists, and investigators alike grappled with the unsettling reality that the ordinary can mask extraordinary danger. Every routine, every interaction, every casual encounter became a reminder of vigilance, of observation, of the fragility of security in a world where patience can empower malevolence. Emily Sanders' story evolved beyond tragedy into a narrative of persistence, vigilance, and enduring memory. The cold case, solved at last, illuminated both the dark potential within human behavior and the extraordinary capacity for tenacity and justice. Communities remained alert, memorials maintained, and the echoes of her life, laughter, and absence continued to resonate, a stark reminder that resolution is never complete, and that even after decades, the shadow of a single crime can shape a city, a community, and countless individual lives in ways both profound and chilling. And so the city breathed, cautiously, aware of the fragile balance between darkness and light, memory and action, loss and perseverance. Each street and park bench a silent witness to the enduring resonance of Emily Sanders' life and the cold case that refused to be forgotten, even as justice, long delayed, finally arrived to illuminate the truth. Even as the killers sat behind bars, life in Los Angeles carried a new rhythm, one tinged with suspicion and shadow. Streets that had once been familiar now seemed fraught with hidden possibilities, corners where danger might have lurked unnoticed, alleys where light failed to penetrate. Detectives revisited the original files again and again, flipping through yellowed pages, photographs curling at the edges, evidence meticulously cataloged, but still whispering secrets. The crescent-shaped earring remained central, a puzzle piece that refused to yield its story. Material analysis traced it to a small workshop overseas, yet no direct connection could be made. It hung in the lab, small and black, a silent witness to a crime that had held the city hostage for decades. Emily's friends carried their own invisible weight, the relief of justice mingling uneasily with grief that had never faded. Each memory was a jagged shard, her voice echoing in empty classrooms, laughter at a diner counter, a hand raised in greeting that would never be returned. They shared stories in hushed tones, clinging to fragments of connection, aware that the world's fascination with the resolution was fleeting, but their loss was permanent. Law enforcement officers tracked leads even after the arrest, analyzing decades of unconnected crimes, wondering if this killer's methods had influenced others, whether patterns existed that could prevent future tragedies. The psychological profile painted a portrait of patience, meticulous planning, and the chilling ability to blend into ordinary life while harboring extraordinary darkness. Experts debated in conferences and classrooms, scrutinizing the nuances of behavior, the small choices that distinguish normality from concealed malice. Emily's parents navigated a delicate balance between mourning and relief, haunted by every anniversary, every echo of a life never fully realized. Their home remained a museum of memory, photographs and keepsakes frozen in time, rooms filled with the weight of absence. Each day was a negotiation between remembrance and survival, grief and fragile hope, a testament to the human capacity for endurance in the face of incomprehensible loss. The community's rituals persisted, candles lit at twilight, flowers pressed into earth, plaques maintained, memories shared. Every act was a reaffirmation that life continues alongside grief, that memory is a weapon against oblivion, that even cold cases resolved decades later leave indelible marks on collective consciousness. Media revisited the story repeatedly, producing documentaries, podcasts, and articles chronicling the intricate investigation, the painstaking collection of evidence, and the ultimate capture of a man who had walked freely among ordinary citizens for 25 years. Each retelling reinforced a chilling lesson. Evil can be patient, meticulous, and hidden in plain sight. Ordinary faces may conceal extraordinary malice. Conversations across neighborhoods were tinged with this awareness. Parents warning children, friends watching over friends, communities embracing vigilance as both protection and tribute. Cold case investigators documented the methodologies employed, creating new protocols, refining forensic techniques, and applying lessons learned to other unresolved cases. Every breakthrough was a reaffirmation of persistence. Every solved case a testament to the fact that time, while it erodes memory and evidence, cannot fully shield wrongdoers from accountability. Yet the city's consciousness remained marked by Emily Sanders' story, shadows lingering in spaces once familiar, streets imbued with caution, the echo of absence hanging over playgrounds, parks, and empty parking lots. Citizens revisited the park where she had been discovered, laying fresh flowers, lighting candles, whispering fragments of memory, a ritual that blurred the line between mourning and commemoration, grief and the human need for closure. Her friends and family created networks of remembrance, support groups, and educational programs, ensuring that the lessons of vigilance, awareness, and communal responsibility were passed on to a new generation. Psychologists, criminologists, and law enforcement professionals analyzed the case endlessly, debating whether the man's ability to conceal his intentions for decades could have been predicted or prevented. Conferences were held, panels convened, and research published, all pointing to one grim reality: extraordinary patience, careful planning, and the invisibility of certain predators can challenge even the most diligent systems of oversight. Yet amidst the fear and analysis, Emily Sanders' memory endured as a source of inspiration, a call to vigilance, and a testament to persistence. The community adapted, schools reinforced safety protocols, parents watched their children more closely, neighbors observed one another with subtle attentiveness, and cold case units across the state found renewed energy in their work, driven by the knowledge that persistence can eventually bring hidden truths to light. Investigators revisited the minutiae of the night she disappeared: the diner, the park, the paths she walked, the faint traces left behind, the shadows that may have witnessed her last moments. They reconstructed timelines with painstaking precision, cross-referenced alibis, and utilized the latest forensic tools to extract meaning from what once seemed insignificant. Every detail, every overlooked observation, became a testament to the power of careful, sustained investigation. Emily's story, while rooted in tragedy, became emblematic of both human vulnerability and the relentless drive to seek justice. Her name was invoked in training sessions, safety campaigns, and memorial services, a symbol of life interrupted and the enduring consequences of a crime that had spanned decades. The city carried on, yet every street corner, every darkened alley, every park retained the invisible presence of absence. Residents moved through life with a quiet vigilance, shaped by the knowledge that danger can be ordinary, patience can be extraordinary, and memory can preserve what time cannot erase. In offices, labs, and classrooms, discussions persisted about methods, motivations, and missed opportunities, about the fine balance between vigilance and paranoia, about the role of observation in preventing future tragedy. And through it all, the black crescent earring remained, enigmatic, symbolic, a small artifact holding the weight of a life stolen. The persistence of investigators, and the enduring lesson that even decades of time cannot fully obscure the pursuit of truth. Every anniversary, every commemoration, every candle lit at dusk reinforced that Emily Sanders' story was far more than a case file. It was a living testament to the fragility of life, the resilience of memory, and the extraordinary human drive to illuminate darkness, even when it has been patient for 25 long years. The city remained vigilant, the community alert, the shadows heavy with memory. But through it all, one undeniable truth persisted. Justice, though delayed, had arrived, leaving an indelible mark on every life it touched, a chilling reminder that evil, no matter how patient, eventually faces the light of truth. Even years after the arrest, the city moved cautiously, as if each street, each corner, each shadow remembered the night Emily Sanders disappeared. Detectives returned to the old park at twilight, flashlights cutting across the fading grass, measuring distances, imagining steps she had taken, tracing the points where the first moments of terror had unfolded, attempting to reconstruct a timeline that had eluded them for decades. The black crescent earring remained in the lab, small, enigmatic, its origins still partially unresolved, an artifact of a crime meticulously executed, a silent witness to premeditation that had evaded detection for a generation. Emily's friends, now adults carrying their own families, returned to the scene each year, leaving fresh flowers, lit candles, and handwritten notes recounting memories. Her laughter, her energy, the conversations frozen in time. The rituals of remembrance became a collective effort, a community refusing to let her story fade, a silent vow that even a cold case resolved decades later could continue to shape lives. Law enforcement continued analyzing old interviews and evidence, using technology Emily's case had helped inspire. CCTV footage was re-examined frame by frame, timelines recalculated, DNA traces scrutinized under newly developed methods, each piece of data cross-referenced with an intensity only decades of obsession could sustain. The psychological profile of the killer fascinated both criminal profilers and journalists. His ability to blend into ordinary life, to walk unnoticed while harboring extraordinary darkness, became a case study in patience, cunning, and compartmentalization. Panels debated his motivations, his behaviors, the chilling normalcy that concealed extraordinary malevolence. Emily's parents navigated a delicate balance between grief and relief, aware that while justice had arrived, nothing could undo the decades-long agony. Nothing could restore the birthdays missed, the milestones vanished, the ordinary moments of life stolen. Their home remained a sanctuary of memory, photographs frozen in time, rooms saturated with absence, objects imbued with meaning only those who grieve could understand. The community maintained a heightened awareness, conversations laced with caution, parents whispering safety instructions, neighbors exchanging observations about odd behaviors, subtle warnings now interpreted through the lens of experience. Cold case units documented methods and lessons, refining protocols for future investigations, ensuring that no detail was overlooked, no clue dismissed, no pattern ignored. Every breakthrough in technology was applied to historical cases, inspired by the Sanders Resolution, from genetic genealogy to digital reconstruction, from fiber analysis to behavioral mapping, demonstrating that persistence and innovation could eventually bring truth to light. Media coverage remained intense, podcasts and documentaries dissecting every minute detail, reconstructing timelines, analyzing the psychological state of both victim and perpetrator, dramatizing the investigation and ultimate capture, yet emphasizing the human cost that no verdict could truly heal. Citizens revisited the park, classrooms discussed the case as a cautionary narrative, law enforcement conducted workshops and seminars, and public awareness campaigns emphasized vigilance, observation, and reporting even the smallest anomalies. Investigators reopened leads once considered dead ends, cross-checking them against new databases, new techniques, and new forensic tools, driven by the belief that understanding the past could prevent future tragedies. Emily's story became emblematic, a symbol of life interrupted, resilience in the face of prolonged uncertainty, and the enduring capacity of human determination to uncover hidden truths. The echoes of that night permeated the city, influencing behavior, shaping awareness, and instilling a cautious respect for the unseen, the unknown, and the extraordinary patience of malevolent forces. Each anniversary rekindled reflection, memory, and vigilance. Friends, family, and community members lit candles, left flowers, shared stories, and observed a silent ritual of remembrance, intertwining grief with the collective resolve to honor Emily's memory. The killer, confined behind bars, carried the weight of exposure, the inevitable isolation of one whose secret life had been revealed. Yet outside, the city continued to grapple with the aftermath, understanding that even resolved cases leave indelible psychological and communal imprints. Every street, every park bench, every unremarkable corner became a reminder of vulnerability and vigilance, a testament to the fragility of perceived safety and the enduring presence of loss and memory. Investigators, educators, psychologists, and citizens all engaged in ongoing reflection and analysis, drawing lessons, refining procedures, and fostering awareness to prevent repetition of past failures. And while justice had been achieved in a legal sense, the emotional landscape remained complex, layered with grief, relief, fear, and determination. Emily Sanders' legacy persisted, not merely as a memory, but as a call to vigilance, empathy, and collective responsibility. The black crescent earring, enigmatic and silent, continued to symbolize the meticulous cruelty of the crime and the relentless pursuit of truth. The park, once a scene of horror, now functioned as a living memorial, a site where communities gathered, remembered, and honored the enduring impact of one life cut short. Shadows, once terrifying, became reminders of vigilance, memory, and resilience, and the city, forever altered, moved forward with an acute awareness that ordinary life could conceal extraordinary danger. The narrative of Emily Sanders' disappearance and ultimate justice became inseparable from the fabric of the city, informing law enforcement, guiding families, shaping communal consciousness, and influencing generations to come. Every act of remembrance, every reflection on past mistakes, every dedication of time and energy to cold case investigations contributed to a collective understanding that vigilance, persistence, and courage are the only shields against a world in which patience can empower malevolence. And so, life continued, marked, cautious, aware, but also resilient, defined by the memory of a girl who vanished one night, whose story traversed decades, and whose legacy became a constant reminder that even the most patient evil is eventually illuminated by truth, and that memory, however painful, is an enduring instrument of justice and humanity. Even after the killer's conviction, the city felt a subtle tension, a collective consciousness shaped by decades of hidden horror. Every familiar street, every quiet alley seemed to hum with memory. Shadows lengthened, and ordinary places now carried the weight of what had transpired unseen. Detectives reviewed files obsessively, retracing the path of Emily Sanders' last known movements, noting minor details previously overlooked. The way the streetlight flickered near the corner diner, the position of a fallen leaf in the park, a discarded coffee cup at the scene, all minutiae that could have, in a different time, made the difference. The black crescent earring remained under meticulous observation in the lab, small and enigmatic, resistant to explanation, a silent witness to the meticulous planning that had allowed a killer to remain invisible for 25 years. Emily's friends, now adults with their own lives, maintained their quiet rituals of remembrance, visiting the park annually, leaving candles, flowers, and handwritten notes, whispers of memory carried on the wind. Their stories, once private, became public through interviews, documentaries, and podcasts, amplifying the human cost of the crime while underscoring the perseverance of those determined to honor her life. Law enforcement agencies collaborated across counties and states, revisiting cold files, comparing patterns, cross-referencing behavior, and applying new forensic techniques. DNA analyses that had once been inconclusive were re-examined with cutting-edge methods. Digital reconstructions allowed investigators to simulate movements, visualize trajectories, and anticipate what had gone unnoticed. The psychological profile of the killer fascinated criminologists and journalists alike. Patience, meticulous planning, the uncanny ability to blend into ordinary life, and the compartmentalization required to maintain secrecy for decades. Public fascination persisted, fueled by media coverage, documentaries, and podcasts that dissected each step of the investigation, the breakthrough that led to capture, and the devastating impact on the family and community. Emily's parents, balancing grief and relief, navigated the aftershocks of public attention while trying to rebuild a life fractured by decades of uncertainty. Their home remained a repository of memory, photographs frozen in time, rooms saturated with absence, every item a reminder of a daughter lost, but not forgotten. Communities responded by reinforcing vigilance, increasing awareness, implementing safety protocols, and observing small anomalies in daily life that might previously have been overlooked. The city collectively absorbed the lessons of the case. Ordinary appearances can conceal extraordinary danger. Patience empowers malevolence, and memory and vigilance are essential defenses. Cold case investigators documented the methodologies used, creating detailed reports, refining protocols, and applying insights to other unresolved cases. The Sanders case became emblematic of perseverance, demonstrating that time, while it erodes evidence and obscures memory, cannot indefinitely protect those who commit deliberate acts of violence. Emily's legacy persisted in both grief and action, inspiring educational initiatives, community workshops, and memorial events, each reinforcing the narrative that vigilance and persistence can illuminate hidden truths. Annual remembrances at the park became both ritual and warning, with citizens participating in collective acts of reflection, placing flowers, lighting candles, and sharing memories, a public acknowledgement of private grief. Investigators revisited the minutiae of the night she disappeared, recalculating timelines, examining faint traces of evidence, reconstructing the steps she took, and identifying possible overlooked observations. Each action was a testament to the enduring importance of patience, attention to detail, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Emily's story transcended the confines of tragedy, becoming a narrative of resilience, communal responsibility, and the enduring impact of one life on countless others. The city, shaped by experience, maintained heightened awareness, citizens observing routines, shadows, and behavior with subtle but persistent vigilance. Memorials reinforced communal memory. Police training incorporated the lessons of patience and observation, and cold case units applied insights gleaned from decades-long investigations to prevent future tragedies. Every retelling of the case emphasized that ordinary life can conceal extraordinary danger, that patience can empower malevolence, and that the persistence of human memory is a vital instrument of justice. Yet, even as the years passed, the emotional resonance of Emily's disappearance lingered, shaping family dynamics, community behavior, and investigative practices. Each anniversary was a meditation on vulnerability, perseverance, and a thin boundary between normalcy and hidden peril. Citizens, teachers, investigators, and psychologists alike revisited the implications of the case, emphasizing vigilance, empathy, and the careful observation of subtle cues that might signal danger. The black crescent earring, enigmatic and silent, remained an enduring symbol, both of the meticulous cruelty of the crime and the relentless pursuit of truth that finally illuminated it. Shadows in the park, once terrifying, now served as markers of remembrance, reflection, and resilience. Emily Sanders' name continued to resonate, a constant reminder of human fragility, the enduring consequences of inattention, and the power of persistence in uncovering hidden evil. The city carried forward, cautious, vigilant, marked by memory, yet resilient, a community forged in the crucible of decades-long uncertainty, shaped by tragedy, but strengthened by the relentless pursuit of justice and the enduring presence of a life remembered long after it was stolen. And through it all, the haunting truth persisted, that even when justice arrives, it leaves behind echoes, shadows, and memories that shape the living, warn the vigilant, and remind all that patience, secrecy, and malice can exist unseen, but never entirely unchallenged. Even as decades passed, the shadow of Emily Sanders' disappearance remained palpable in Los Angeles, a silent tension threading through streets, parks, and alleys. Residents moved with subtle vigilance, scanning faces and places once taken for granted, acutely aware that ordinary appearances can mask extraordinary danger. Detectives returned repeatedly to the crime scene, tracing the faintest signs, examining the worn paths in the park, measuring distances, analyzing the exact spots she had been seen last. Every detail, no matter how minor, was reconsidered under the lens of decades of accumulated knowledge and technological advancement. The black crescent earring remained in the lab, analyzed repeatedly for composition, origin, and trace evidence. It was a small object, yet it carried the weight of premeditation, meticulous planning, and the patient malice of a killer who had walked unseen among ordinary citizens for 25 years. Emily's friends, now adults with families of their own, maintained quiet rituals of remembrance, returning to the park, lighting candles, leaving flowers, whispering fragments of memory, reciting the stories of a life interrupted. Their acts of memory intertwined grief and resilience, communal mourning and private reflection, ensuring that Emily's story remained alive despite the passage of time. Law enforcement units across the state revisited cold cases with renewed urgency, inspired by the Sanders resolution. Every file, every timeline, every fragment of evidence was re-examined under modern technology, from genetic genealogy to enhanced forensic analysis. Patterns were sought, timelines reconstructed, and connections traced that had previously gone unnoticed. Criminologists dissected the psychology of the killer, analyzing his ability to appear normal while harboring extraordinary darkness. Experts debated his motivations, the meticulousness of his planning, and the subtle cues that he had left behind, all invisible to those around him at the time. Public fascination endured, amplified by podcasts, documentaries, and news specials detailing every step of the investigation, the breakthrough, and the long-awaited capture. Yet beyond the sensationalism, the human cost persisted, the grief, the trauma, the invisible scars carried by Emily's family, friends, and community. Emily's parents navigated life under the constant weight of remembrance, photographs frozen in time, rooms saturated with absence, objects imbued with memory and loss. Their grief was public and private, shaped by decades of uncertainty and finally tempered by the legal closure. Yet the decades-long wait left indelible marks that no verdict could erase. The community, mindful of what had transpired, maintained heightened vigilance. Parents taught children subtle awareness. Neighbors observed each other with quiet attention, and public safety programs integrated lessons from the Sanders case, emphasizing the necessity of vigilance, observation, and timely reporting of suspicious behavior. Cold case investigators created protocols inspired by the case, applying lessons learned to unresolved investigations, refining techniques, and leveraging new technologies to identify patterns and connections that might otherwise be missed. Emily Sanders' story became emblematic, a narrative of resilience, persistence, and the enduring impact of one life on countless others. It was both cautionary and instructive, highlighting human vulnerability, the patience of malevolence, and the relentless pursuit of justice that can bring truth to light, even after decades. Annual remembrances at the park evolved into structured memorials. Citizens placed flowers and candles in precise arrangements, wrote letters of remembrance, and shared stories in quiet reflection. These acts preserved memory, honored her life, and reinforced communal responsibility, intertwining grief and action in ways that education and vigilance could perpetuate. Investigators re-examined every detail of her disappearance. Paths walked, benches sat upon, the diner where she had once been seen, the faint shadows captured by old surveillance footage. Timelines were recalculated, patterns traced, and overlooked clues revisited, a painstaking process that underscored the importance of diligence, attention to detail, and the power of collective memory. Emily's legacy extended into educational programs, safety seminars, and psychological studies, shaping the approach to missing persons and cold cases for future generations. Her story reinforced the lessons of observation, persistence, and careful documentation, demonstrating that patience and vigilance can eventually illuminate hidden truths. The city, forever marked by her story, maintained a subtle but pervasive awareness. Every alley, park, and corner carried the echo of absence, reminders of what was lost, and the necessity of vigilance against the ordinary concealment of extraordinary malevolence. Memorials at the park, once simple acts of mourning, became ritualized expressions of collective memory, community resilience, and acknowledgement of human fragility in the face of persistent evil. Investigators continued to refine methods, leveraging the lessons of the Sanders case to prevent future tragedies, applying forensic innovation, behavioral analysis, and meticulous documentation to ensure that no detail was overlooked. Media coverage revisited the case regularly, chronicling developments, interviewing friends and family, and analyzing investigative techniques, emphasizing both the human cost and the procedural achievements of decades-long persistence. Citizens maintained a heightened awareness, influenced by the enduring story, mindful that shadows can conceal danger, ordinary faces may mask malevolence, and vigilance is a necessary shield against both visible and invisible threats. The black crescent earring remained a symbol, a small artifact imbued with extraordinary significance, a representation of meticulous planning, patient cruelty, and the enduring quest for truth. It reminded the city, the investigators, and the community that even decades of concealment could not withstand the persistence of human determination. Emily Sanders' name continued to resonate, her story shaping law enforcement, community behavior, educational initiatives, and collective memory. The city, though cautious and forever altered, demonstrated resilience, honoring her life, acknowledging the fragility of ordinary safety, and embracing vigilance as both protection and tribute. Through it all, the chilling truth endured. Time may delay justice, shadows may conceal malevolence, but the persistence of memory, observation, and relentless investigation ensures that even the most patient evil is eventually exposed. The echoes of Emily Sanders' life, disappearance, and the decades-long pursuit of her killer remained woven into the fabric of the city, a constant reminder of human fragility, the endurance of grief, and the inexorable power of truth revealed. Even decades after the arrest, Los Angeles carried a subtle, persistent unease. Streets once familiar seemed heavier, shadows longer, corners darker, as if the city itself remembered Emily Sanders, her absence, and the patient cruelty of the man who had taken her. Detectives retraced steps over and over. The park where she had vanished, the diner where she was last seen, the sidewalks and benches where fleeting glances and overlooked movements might have hinted at the approaching tragedy. Every photograph, every note, every witness statement was revisited, scrutinized with the lens of decades of experience and modern technology. The black crescent earring remained under constant observation, a tiny object holding the weight of meticulous planning, premeditation, and concealment, a puzzle that refused to reveal all its secrets. Friends and family continued their rituals of remembrance, visiting the park, lighting candles, leaving flowers, whispering fragments of memory. Their grief was intertwined with resilience, a quiet refusal to let her life fade into anonymity, a determination that memory itself could serve as justice when time had delayed it. Law enforcement agencies applied the lessons learned to other cold cases, using modern forensic techniques, digital reconstruction, and behavioral analysis to re-examine decades-old evidence. Each breakthrough reaffirmed that patience, observation, and persistent investigation could overcome even the most carefully concealed evil. Criminologists and psychologists dissected the killer's behaviors, examining the combination of ordinary appearance and extraordinary malevolence, the compartmentalization, the calculated patience, the chilling ability to exist unnoticed while committing unspeakable acts. Media coverage revisited the case regularly, highlighting the perseverance required, the long path to resolution, and the emotional toll on families and communities. Podcasts, documentaries, and news specials chronicled every stage, emphasizing both the procedural achievements and the enduring human cost. Emily's parents continued their delicate balance of grief and relief, living amid photographs frozen in time, rooms filled with the absence of a daughter who had been stolen too soon. The emotional scars of decades-long uncertainty were permanent, shaping routines, relationships, and their perception of safety. Communities adopted heightened vigilance, parents teaching children to notice small anomalies, neighbors observing subtle behaviors, public safety programs integrating lessons from the Sanders case to prevent future tragedies. Cold case investigators refined protocols, documenting every methodological insight, cross-referencing evidence, and applying innovative techniques to unsolved cases. Emily Sanders' story became emblematic, representing both vulnerability and resilience, highlighting the patience of evil, the persistence of investigators, and the enduring importance of memory in the pursuit of justice. Annual memorials at the park became ritualized acts of reflection, grief, and vigilance, where citizens collectively honored her life and the lessons learned from her disappearance. Investigators meticulously re-examined details from the night she vanished, reconstructing timelines, analyzing faint traces of evidence, and piecing together overlooked clues. Each act underscored the power of diligence, memory, and human persistence in uncovering truth from decades of obscurity. Emily's legacy extended into educational programs, safety seminars, and psychological studies, influencing law enforcement, schools, and community awareness initiatives. Her story taught that ordinary life can conceal extraordinary danger, that patience can empower malevolence, and that memory, vigilance, and perseverance are essential in the pursuit of justice. The city, marked by her story, maintained subtle yet pervasive awareness. Every alley, park, and street carried echoes of absence, lessons of vulnerability, and reminders of the fragility of perceived safety. Memorials, candles, and flowers reinforced communal memory and resilience, merging grief with action, reflection with education. Investigators refined forensic methods, behavioral analysis, and documentation processes, ensuring no detail was overlooked and no connection ignored. Media coverage continued, chronicling the case with emphasis on both procedural achievement and human impact, illustrating the enduring resonance of decades-long investigations. Citizens internalized the lessons, observing subtle anomalies in daily life, understanding that vigilance is an ongoing necessity. The black crescent earring remained emblematic of meticulous planning and concealed malevolence, a tangible representation of the patience required to commit a crime that endured unnoticed for a generation. Emily Sanders' story resonated in communities, schools, and law enforcement, reminding all that the persistence of human memory and investigation is a powerful force against hidden evil. The park, once a site of terror, became a place of memory, reflection, and vigilance, ensuring that the impact of her life and death would shape behaviors and awareness for years to come. Even as time passed, the city's consciousness remained altered. Shadows, alleys, and familiar streets carried the weight of vigilance and remembrance. Emily Sanders' narrative became inseparable from the city's identity, a testament to human fragility, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Her story proved that even decades-long cold cases, meticulously hidden in time, can ultimately be illuminated, leaving a community altered, yet vigilant, aware, and determined to honor the life stolen, the lessons learned, and the enduring power of memory, observation, and justice revealed. Even decades later, the echoes of Emily Sanders' disappearance haunted Los Angeles like a ghost stitched into the streets, alleys, and parks, a quiet but persistent reminder that evil had walked unnoticed for 25 years. Every street corner, every playground, every shadow seemed to whisper the story of a life stolen and the relentless patience of a killer who had once blended seamlessly into the rhythm of ordinary existence. Detectives returned endlessly to the original crime scene, measuring, imagining, reconstructing, retracing the steps she had taken, the points of hesitation, the moments frozen in terror. Every detail of that night, flickering streetlights, the sound of a distant car, a discarded wrapper in the grass, was scrutinized with decades of accumulated experience and modern technology, as if the ground itself could speak the secrets of a night long past. The black crescent earring remained under constant observation in the lab, small, enigmatic, imbued with the weight of premeditation, careful planning, and the silence of decades. It was more than jewelry. It was a symbol, a relic of patient malice that had finally been exposed to light. Emily's friends and family maintained rituals of remembrance, visiting the park annually, leaving candles, flowers, and notes, whispering fragments of memory, ensuring that her life, stolen too soon, would not fade into the anonymity of time. Each act of remembrance was intertwined with grief and resilience, mourning and vigilance, personal loss and communal tribute. Law enforcement units across counties and states applied the lessons learned from the Sanders case to other cold cases, re-examining old evidence with new technologies, reconstructing timelines with meticulous care, and cross-referencing behavioral patterns to uncover hidden connections. The killer's psychology was dissected endlessly. The patience, the compartmentalization, the chilling ability to maintain a veneer of normalcy while harboring extraordinary malevolence. Conferences, training seminars, and academic studies used his behaviors as a case study in criminal profiling, exploring the depths of human deceit and the persistence required to uncover it. Media coverage continued, dissecting every aspect of the investigation, the breakthrough, and the emotional cost. Podcasts, documentaries, and news specials highlighted both procedural mastery and human suffering, emphasizing the extraordinary commitment required to solve a case long thought unsolvable. Emily's parents lived under the constant weight of memory and grief, navigating the delicate balance of relief and loss, the void created by decades of uncertainty, and the irrevocable absence of a daughter who had been stolen from them. Their home remained a shrine of memory, photographs frozen in time, rooms imbued with silence, objects carrying the resonance of absence. The community, forever marked by the tragedy, maintained heightened vigilance, teaching children to observe subtle anomalies, neighbors exchanging quiet observations, public safety programs incorporating lessons from the Sanders case to prevent future tragedies. Cold case investigators refined their methods, documenting procedural insights, cross-referencing evidence, and applying innovative techniques, ensuring that no detail was overlooked and no connection ignored. Emily Sanders' story became emblematic of human vulnerability, the patience of evil, and the enduring power of persistence and observation. Annual memorials at the park evolved into structured acts of collective remembrance, grief intertwined with action, reflection merged with education. Investigators meticulously revisited every detail. Paths walked, benches sat upon, faint traces of evidence, overlooked clues, reconstructing movements with painstaking care, underscoring the power of diligence and memory in uncovering the truth. Emily's legacy extended into educational programs, safety seminars, and psychological studies, influencing law enforcement, schools, and community awareness initiatives, emphasizing that ordinary life can conceal extraordinary danger and that vigilance and perseverance are essential. Shadows in the park, once terrifying, became markers of reflection and resilience, teaching the city to honor memory while remaining vigilant. The black crescent earring remained emblematic of careful planning and concealed malevolence, a tangible reminder that patience, secrecy, and cruelty can exist unseen, but ultimately cannot withstand relentless investigation. Emily Sanders' name resonated throughout the city, shaping behaviors, law enforcement protocols, and communal awareness, demonstrating that even decades-long cold cases can leave a lasting imprint on both memory and practice. The city, cautious and forever altered, embraced vigilance as a protective measure and a tribute to a life lost. Every street, every shadow, every quiet moment carried the lessons learned. That patience can empower malevolence, that ordinary appearances can conceal extraordinary danger, and that the persistence of human observation and memory is a powerful instrument of justice. As candles flickered in the park and whispers of remembrance lingered in the air, the city acknowledged the enduring impact of Emily Sanders' life, the cost of delayed justice, and the sobering reality that even when a killer is finally exposed, the echoes of absence, memory, and trauma reverberate indefinitely. Yet within this haunting persistence lay a testament to resilience, vigilance, and the human capacity to pursue truth relentlessly. Emily Sanders' story, once defined by disappearance and uncertainty, now embodied remembrance, education, and the enduring necessity of observation. The city, forever marked, carried her legacy, a reminder that time cannot erase the consequences of malevolence, nor the determination of those who refuse to let a life forgotten remain unhonored. Shadows stretched across familiar streets, each echoing the memory of absence, yet also the resilience of a community shaped by loss, vigilance, and the unyielding power of truth brought finally to light. And through it all, the quiet but persistent understanding remained. Even patient evil is eventually exposed. Memory is a weapon against oblivion, and justice, no matter how delayed, leaves an indelible imprint on both the living and the city they inhabit. Even now, decades later, Los Angeles moves with a memory embedded deep in its streets, in its parks, in the shadows that stretch along familiar alleys. Every passerby, every silent street corner carries an invisible weight. The lingering presence of Emily Sanders, her stolen life, and the patient, meticulous evil that haunted the city unseen for 25 long years. Detectives return again and again to the park where she disappeared, measuring distances, analyzing light and shadow, reconstructing movements, and imagining moments frozen in terror. Every photograph, every note, every fragment of evidence is revisited with the precision of decades of experience and the clarity of modern technology, as if the city itself could whisper the secrets of that night. The black crescent earring, small and enigmatic, remains in the lab, analyzed repeatedly, resisting explanation, a symbol of meticulous cruelty and patient concealment finally illuminated by relentless investigation. Friends and family maintain rituals of remembrance, visiting the park, lighting candles, leaving flowers, whispering memories of laughter, conversations, and moments now forever lost. Each act is a quiet defiance of oblivion, a merging of grief, memory, and communal resilience. Law enforcement across the state applies the lessons of the Sanders case to other cold cases, revisiting evidence with new forensic methods, digital reconstructions, behavioral mapping, and cross-referencing decades of data, proving that persistence and innovation can finally illuminate even the darkest, longest hidden crimes. Criminologists dissect the killer's psychology endlessly. The patience, the compartmentalization, the chilling normalcy that allowed him to exist unnoticed while harboring extraordinary malice. Academics, law enforcement, and journalists alike examine the behaviors, motivations, and subtle cues that went undetected, drawing lessons for prevention, profiling, and vigilance. Media coverage continues to chronicle the story, emphasizing procedural achievement, human cost, and the decades-long pursuit of justice, reinforcing both public fascination and the sobering reality of delayed resolution. Emily's parents navigate a fragile balance of grief and relief, living with photographs frozen in time, rooms imbued with silence, objects charged with absence, and the unrelenting memory of a daughter lost yet remembered. The city, marked by tragedy, maintains heightened vigilance. Parents instruct their children, neighbors watch for subtle behaviors, and safety programs integrate the lessons of the Sanders case to prevent future harm. Cold case investigators document insights, refine protocols, and apply innovative techniques to unresolved cases, ensuring that every clue is valued and every connection explored. Emily Sanders' story transcends tragedy, becoming a narrative of human vulnerability, resilience, and the extraordinary power of memory and persistence in seeking truth. Annual memorials at the park evolve into structured acts of remembrance, grief intertwined with communal action, reflection merged with education, rituals reinforcing both mourning and vigilance. Investigators meticulously re-examine every minute detail, reconstructing paths walked, benches sat upon, faint traces of evidence, overlooked clues, emphasizing that diligence and patience can eventually expose hidden truth. Her legacy extends into schools, community programs, law enforcement training, and psychological studies, teaching that ordinary life can mask extraordinary danger and that vigilance, observation, and persistence are indispensable. Shadows in the park, once terrifying, now serve as markers of memory and resilience, symbols of the enduring human capacity to confront malevolence. The black crescent earring remains emblematic of the meticulous planning and patient concealment of a killer finally revealed, a tangible reminder that time can never fully protect those who commit deliberate acts of harm. Emily Sanders' name continues to resonate across communities, schools, law, enforcement, and collective memory, demonstrating that even decades-long cold cases leave lasting impacts on consciousness and practice. The city, cautious yet resilient, embraces vigilance as both tribute and protection, honoring her life while recognizing the fragile nature of perceived safety. Every street, every shadow, every quiet moment carries lessons learned. Patience can empower evil. Ordinary appearances may conceal danger, and the relentless persistence of human observation and memory is a force capable of unveiling even the most patient malevolence. Candles flicker in the park, whispers of remembrance linger in the air, and the city acknowledges the enduring weight of Emily Sanders' life, the human cost of delayed justice, and the sobering truth that even when a killer is exposed, the echoes of absence, memory, and trauma ripple endlessly. Yet within this haunting persistence lies resilience, vigilance, and the extraordinary capacity of humans to pursue truth relentlessly. Emily Sanders' story, once defined by disappearance and uncertainty, now embodies remembrance, education, and the enduring necessity of observation. The city carries her legacy, a reminder that time cannot erase the consequences of malevolence, nor the determination of those who refuse to let a life forgotten remain unhonored. Shadows stretch across familiar streets, each echoing absence and grief, yet also the strength of a community shaped by loss, vigilance, and the unyielding power of truth brought finally to light. And through it all, one inescapable truth persists. Even patient evil, no matter how deeply concealed, is eventually revealed. Memory is a weapon against oblivion, and justice, though delayed for decades, leaves an indelible mark on the living, the city, and the enduring story of a life stolen and remembered.